Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very next episode of the TNT College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Wilson. Glad to be back on this evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you've enjoyed the long weekend with lots of football. We've had 5 days in a row of college football. It's been absolutely fantastic. But in this episode, I am joined once again by my good buddy Justin Bressette, and we're going to be talking about UConn football. So, thanks for joining me, Justin.
Thank you very much, Bobby. I'm glad to be back on.
Well, the first thing I have to ask is about the atmosphere at the Rent. The biggest crowd that we've had in many, many years, in many, many games. So I just have to ask, the tailgating experience and then the experience at the game, how awesome was that?
Tailgating experience was really awesome. We had Channel 3 come through. Actually, there was people beside us that were tailgating. They got interviewed, and I have never seen that ever. Even when, like, the first year when the Rent opened up, I saw similar tailgating. So it's been quite a while. It was just awesome. I mean, you had to go to the bathroom. You had to, like, walk down 3 or 4 aisles and then chart this way and chart that way, just go to the bathroom, because everybody was clogging up the way. I mean, it was something else. When I got there too, the parking, it was real easy to get in because nobody was there yet. And then all of a sudden, like, 5 o'clock came around and it just got busy, and the atmosphere was just unreal. Like, you could just feel there's, like, it was just something different. Like last year, when we had crowds of like 27,000 and the tailgating felt like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of people. Well, no, this one was, it was actually unreal. It was an awesome experience.
I love hearing that, and I hope our fans, and especially the students as well, understand how important that is moving forward.
Yeah, no, and that's the one thing too, is that, moving forward, even if this game, the first game didn't go as planned, we need support. The football team always needs support. UConn fans did really well though, especially UConn Twitter, buying tickets for everybody that needed them, and actually the bus company too that actually brings down the students and brings down the team, DATCO, they actually bought 50 extra tickets this year. There was actually other people too that bought 40 extra tickets, 30 extra tickets, and just giving them away. So it was just, honestly, I have to say, it was a great effort by everybody. And UConn Nation is something special.
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, what an amazing job done by everybody involved in this, from our athletic director Dave Benedict, Coach Moore, all the players, all the other coaches, but more importantly in this process, our fan base was just absolutely fantastic during this process. Like you said, I saw so many different people on Twitter, like you were saying, that bought tickets and were giving them away. I mean, just Husky Nation is special, like you said. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and the one thing too is, I think that UConn was always good with this too. Is that when alumni, especially alumni that played sports, had to be recognized, everybody came out to watch it, because this program, they really do care. They care about the athlete, but they also care about your life after college too. And it's one of those schools that you don't see that in many schools at all.
That's the truth. I can attest to that as a former coach, but also as a former athlete. I mean, seeing even the school I attended. From a basketball perspective, on my point, my former school doesn't even reach out to me at all. So I mean, every now and then I guess they do, but it's nothing, not very frequently. Let's just say that. And I see so often that UConn is doing that and inviting former players back and former coaches and it's special, like you said.
Yeah, it truly is.
Well, like you said, the game didn't go as planned, but I think the first thing let's just start with is last year we played them at their place in Raleigh, North Carolina, lost 41-10, so by 31 points. This year we lose by 10. Yes, you don't want moral victories at all. That's not what we're here for, and I know Coach Mora and those guys don't want to hear that at all. But to see that improvement, it is important.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, you could definitely see the improvement also on the field. The coaches did really well. This team, I hate to say it, like the steps they took with 2 years of Coach Moore and company in charge, definitely, it made up for all those years that were really bad. And the 2 years, we're like, honestly, I hate to say it, but we're like light years ahead of the schedule. Because we really shouldn't be at the point where we're at right now. Sometimes it takes 3+ years, and we were very lucky that it only took, I would say 1.5 years.
Right, right. I, I've interacted with a lot of NC State fans, and I just did a podcast with some Georgia State people, and so many people have said things about our program in a positive light now that it's refreshing to see and hear, because for so long we've been kicked and people have just said so many like things that just because they're ignorant, they're ignorant to our history and what UConn football has been in the past. So many people don't know about that and the great history of UConn football. They just look at what's happened over the past 5 or 10 years or so, and they just see, oh, it was terrible. But digging deeper, people can see what has happened here before. And I will say, some of the interactions I had with the NC State fans, that they're worried this week that they're going to get destroyed by Notre Dame. And I've seen so many people say so many great things about us. They're like, you guys can win 10 games. You guys can go 8-4, win your bowl game, go 9-4 type of thing. There's been so many people from the NC State side that have been impressed by us, and I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, and it was really good, because actually, I hate to say it, I actually interacted with an NC State fan on Twitter, and he was actually one of the nicer guys. Like and I think their fans are not. They're not as bad as other fans that we had to interact with before. I mean, these guys kind of understand. I mean, NC State, they've had their years too where they were kind of knocked down and stuff, but they're definitely in for a treat with their team. But no, I actually think that this team is something special. It really is something special. I mean, the NC State game was a toss-up for me. So right now we could still easily win, 8-4, 9-3. Minimum is 7-5. My minimum is definitely 7-5 still, though.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think this NC State team is either the second or third best team on our schedule, depending on how you want to put NC State or Duke on that. You could flip-flop them either way. But to be quite frank, NC State probably has the best defensive line that we will play against all year, and we did a fantastic job running the football against them.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, our guys up in front, our offensive line did a very nice job. There was plays where Christian Haynes really sealed off his guy really well. Especially with the Victor Rosa's first touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that, Christian Haynes and that whole line just did their thing, made the right corrections, made the right gaps for him to run through. And even his second biggest run too. I mean, these guys really pushed up the ball very well. But there was also times where I think they might have gotten a little tired, or they just didn't, they just felt they didn't have the right fundamentals, and you could tell. But I mean, yeah, this front line is is going to get really good this year. I mean, this was just the start for him, so I can't wait until we definitely see all the rest of the games.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and start with that first drive of the game for us offensively. I mean, just a fantastic display by our offense, and Joe Fagano did an amazing job leading them down the field. In that, he had some really good runs in that first drive. Victor Rosa did a great job capping off the drive. But I want to say this as well. Those first drives tend to be scripted, and what I mean by that is is the play calls and what's going to happen have been rehearsed in practice. Like you know what you want to do to start the game, and we did a fantastic job with that to start the game. So I want to talk about that first drive, but I also want to bounce this question off you after you're done talking about the first drive of why we went away from some of that too.
Yeah, so the first drive, I mean, we're actually talking before this too, and it almost looked like Taquan Roberson's first drive at Utah State. It looked very promising. Everybody just felt positive, and the thing is when I saw the first drive and the touchdown, like the breakaway touchdown, I'm like, oh yeah, man, we're definitely, we're definitely have a really good game.
Right.
Because Joe also looked very confident. Everybody looked very confident, and the first drive is we knew our strengths. We knew our strengths offensively, and we knew how to how to basically go through the motions, but go through emotions in a positive way. And a lot of teams do this too, because even if they're scripted, sometimes it can work for drive after drive after drive until they actually get to you. But no, I mean, it was one of those flawless opening drives where I was like, oh my goodness, man, we scored too quickly.
It was beautiful.
Oh, it was beautiful. And honestly, I was like, we need to do this more.
Right.
Because this might be our strength for this year. We might be able to just bully the defensive line and even the second level, which is the linebackers. We might be able to bully them all and just get easy touchdowns or easy yardage for that. And I honestly think that's what our strengths are right now. Is you have to just push. You have to keep pushing. And it seemed like that we had a very fast cadence too. We really kind of just went up to the ball and we hiked it right away. And that's the type of that's the type of team that you want. You want an offense that can fly off the hike and get positive plays like that.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. The confidence we displayed in that first drive, it got you excited. But then it led to me thinking, well, why did we go away from that?
Yeah, so we kind of did go away from that, right? For quarters, for a couple quarters. Actually, I would say all the way to the fourth quarter, honestly. It came to a point where we tried to be too pretty at times. We didn't play to our strengths, and we went away from it, which I don't really understand why, because you had this team which you basically could shut down on defense, and offensively you knew what plays to call, but yet you strained away from it. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, because we were trying to, at times we're trying to throw the ball in places where it wasn't the strength of the quarterback. We weren't playing to the strengths of the quarterback. We really weren't playing to the strengths of the running backs, because the only running back that actually, honestly, did something that whole game was Victor Rosa. Mm-hmm. And we actually thought Devontae Houston could have actually been, a player that could have been an impact player for us, but yet he didn't really. They shut him down quickly because I really don't think we called the right plays for Devontae Houston either. For like throwing plays too, I mean, in the first quarter, second quarter, we saw that we could have had little dump off passes for like 10, 15 yards, and we were like killing their defenses. And then we strained away from that too, which we can't. We basically have to find the weakness of the defense. We found the weaknesses of defense, but yet we played off of it sometimes, which we can't do.
Agree. And looking at the receiving side of things, or more so the passing side of things, I stressed this going into the game, how the middle of the field would be open for us to pass the ball. And I saw multiple clips of Justin Jolie getting open in the middle of the field, and we didn't even look at it. And there's other options too. So that I guess is a little concerning, just to know that was available, but it just wasn't looked at or focused on, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I mean, I've saw some clips too where Jolie was wide open, and the thing is that the first 2 seconds, you gotta throw that ball. I mean, quarterback wise too, I counted more than 3 seconds, like up to 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden, the pocket collapsed. But you got to throw the ball. You got to have, you got to basically make up your mind before you even throw it, before even the play starts. I mean, UConn wise too. You've done this. You've done all these plays for fall and spring now, right? So the thing is that you know exactly where these players are going to be. So we need to actually play up to the strengths of that. We got to have a quarterback, no matter who it is, that can at least can throw it in 2 seconds or at least 3. You can't hold the ball more than 3 seconds, or it's just not going to work.
Right. And I'll add, we're going to adjust. We will. We'll adjust. We'll get better. I know we will. I just think we have to look at it as a positive. The fact that, yes, again, we don't want moral victories at all. But at the same time, this is arguably the second best team on our schedule, and we're looking at these ways that we could have won the football game. So again, it's a negative that we might not have utilized that the way that we should have, but it's also a positive for the fact that we're in this position.
Exactly, and before the show too, we were talking about adjustments. Like the Marshall game, like the Ball State game. It seemed like our adjustments just sometimes weren't there, but then the other side of the ball, their adjustments were right on. But I still think that the first game, no matter what, even the coaching staff, they're kind of just going through the plays. They don't really have an open playbook right now. They kind of have the plays that they wanna basically just, I guess, succeed on first, and then they can open it up. And basically, throughout the season too, the second game, we're going to see something different also. I mean, you're not going to see the same thing that we saw in NC State.
Oh, absolutely.
The offensive coordinator, Nick Charlton, defensive coordinator, I guess we'd have to say Jim Mora and company, right?
Right.
Defensive coordinators. They're kind of just seeing where the team is at right now, and then they're going to make the proper adjustments. I actually think they will make the proper adjustments, especially with Georgia State. I mean, and they know where they messed up, and they know where to where their success is. So I'm just hoping that from this game, there was a lot of times where I saw, I'm like, oh boy, we could have made this adjustment to make it way better. But like I said before too, what UConn needs to understand is every quarter we need to get a touchdown or at least a field goal, and we will stay in the game. We'll either win the game if we get a touchdown every 4 quarters, or if we get a touchdown and field goal, we'll at least stay in the game. And like I told you before too, is if, when we went up 7-0 and then all of a sudden they came back 7-7, well, there was times where we could have had another touchdown, and there was times that we could have, went for a field goal. And if that was true, it would have been 17-10, right? And then the Victor Rosa, that big 72-yard touchdown, it could have been tied up. So the game could have went a different way for us.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. If we get a touchdown every quarter, 28 points, I mean, we look at that, we win this football game against NC State. If we get 28 points a game, we'll beat the majority of teams in college football because, one, that means our offense is on the field a significant amount, keeping the defense off the field, and we're controlling things the way that we can control it. And our defense is fantastic, and I know that they will hold the majority of teams in college football under 28 points.
Oh, yeah. There was times where I saw our defense, we were over 100 yards, 100 yards, and was it rushing? It was rushing, right?
Yeah,
or pass yards, too.
160 rushing yards for the game and 113 passing yards for the game for us.
Yeah, so basically there was times where we held them under 100 yards. And at a point where I'm like, you guys got to take advantage, because anytime when an offense is over 100 yards over their opponent, or even let's say 150 yards over their opponent, they should be up by 2 touchdowns easy, right? So I honestly think what we have to do is we have to, yes, we can get the yardage, but we have to get the positive. We got to play every down like it's our last. We can't go out there and just play 4 downs. We got to give our defense some time to rest. And I think that the offense needs to almost if they actually set a tempo to the game, it would have been a lot different too. But we were just sometimes we're way too fast and way too predictable. And I think if we could set the tempo, like if we can go fast and kind of slow and kind of mess with the opponent's defense, I think that would help us too in the future games.
Absolutely agree with that. I mean, being able to control the time of possession is huge.
Yeah, and we all know, what side of the ball can actually, who can actually, set the tempo of the game. It's going to be the offense, right? Because the defense, they always have to go by the tempo of defense always has to go by the tempo of the offense. So the thing is that, when we're up 7-0, we got to slow the tempo down. We got to just do our thing. We got to understand where we're at, especially with a P5 program like NC State, right? Because we have Duke coming up, which is going to play. It's going to be they're going to play kind of similar, right? So
right.
The thing is that when we go by a touchdown, we got to be able to run the ball, pass the ball, and set the tempo. Because if we just keep setting the tempo, this team is only just going to go up and up and up and up, and it's just going to help us throughout the season.
Absolutely, and shifting to where NC State really got us would be the scrambling ability of Brennan Armstrong at the quarterback position. He had 96 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. We struggled with that against a quarterback who could run, and we knew he was going to do that coming into this game, because he had over 20 rushing touchdowns in his career. So we knew that this was there, but we really struggled with that. And I think part of the problem from our defensive perspective is we came out way too pumped up, way too energized, and we played a bit undisciplined when it came to tackling, which led to, I mean, I know a lot of people were complaining about missed tackles and such, and we struggled there. That was definitely one of our issues.
Yeah, no, we definitely struggled. There was times where, there was times where the quarterback ran it, and you would be like, "Where's the defensive end? Where's the linebacker stepping up?"
Right.
Especially offensive, the outside linebackers. Where are they? And missed tackles. And the thing is that he had easy runs for touchdowns because the defensive end either got caught up inside or he just didn't contain, because he almost played it like a pitch play where your defensive end has to come in and contain the quarterback, and then either your linebackers or safeties have to step up, right?
Right.
But they weren't stepping up. They were just, I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they were double teaming other guys or they just got caught up in blocks. But what we need to do is we need to be better with, defensive ends, especially. You guys set the tempo of the defense. I was a defensive end way back when. If you do not have self-containment, you're basically going to steer your linebackers in the wrong direction, because they're looking at you for the outside runs, right? Or at least the C gap runs.
Right.
And the thing is that your safeties too, especially when he just ran it in for what was it? I think the first running touchdown, it went for 12 or 15 yards or something like that for a rush.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So the thing is you have about 4 guys that can actually make a tackle, either defensive tackle, a defensive end, outside linebacker, even a middle linebacker, a safety, or a cornerback. I mean, so you have 6 guys that can actually do their thing, but everybody was just they just didn't break down their fundamentals right, and that's the thing, is that he had such easy runs, and it was just unreal. I mean, their running backs, though, they didn't really have much of a chance because we could stop them. But when the quarterback had the time, it's just that our defense just broke down, and that wasn't a good thing.
Absolutely. And one real positive I would like to look at is only giving up 155 passing yards.
Yeah, that was really well. That means that our defensive backs did a great job. Defensive backs are definitely, I feel like, a group that is getting stronger. Coach Hill is doing a really good job with them, and I still think that they're just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's our strong suit right now, is that games coming up, basically the rushing, we got to get better with that. The passing yards, we're already there, so we just have to get stronger and stronger, and we just have to play our game with that.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good way for us to shift into Georgia State for our upcoming game against them. I think all Husky fans will say that we need to throw the ball better. We all understand that. But looking at Georgia State's game from last week, I was able to go back and watch that, and they struggled against FCS Rhode Island, who I know UConn fans are going to know plenty about, just because of the proximity of their program. And just looking at the stats from that game, I'll just run down Georgia State's stats real quick. Their quarterback, Darren Granger, he's an accurate quarterback, 16 for 20, 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also ran for 51 yards. He's a good mobile quarterback. So after seeing what Brennan Armstrong did, we definitely need to adjust in that sense. And then their running back, Marcus Carroll, ran for a career-high 184 yards and 3 touchdowns. So as a team, Georgia State ran for 231 yards and 3 touchdowns. So we definitely got to focus on that. And again, Granger, can throw the football. He had 2 touchdown passes, like I said. Robert Lewis, their leading receiver, 7 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. And then Talik Williams had 2 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. So they got 2 guys that are good deep threats there. And then looking at their defense, they have good linebackers, but their secondary is very questionable. And I just got off of a podcast with some Georgia State fans, and they are very, very worried about that aspect of the game. And you can look at what Rhode Island did, and their quarterback, Kasim Hill, threw for 408 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then he ran for another touchdown himself as well. So, looking at this, going into this game, we look at Georgia State as their offense is pretty darn good, but we like our defense. And Georgia State's defense, especially the passing attack, is very questionable. The thing I look at the most in this game is, 1, can we stop Darren Granger, their quarterback, and his rushing ability? I firmly believe we will be able to stop him as a passer. I love our secondary. I think we'll be good there. Can we stop him from rushing the ball? 2, our offensive line needs to dominate their defensive line, which I firmly believe we can do that. And 3, from talking to those Georgia State fans, like I just said, we need to take advantage of that porous secondary that they have. So, Justin, bouncing it back to you, what are you looking at coming into this Georgia State game?
Well, I'm looking at, our rushing against their defense. What we really need to do is what really kind of actually was up in the air. I understand that the rushing was very well. It's only, a few touchdowns and stuff. But I still think that we have to have balance between our rushing and our passing. Our passing has to get a lot better. Our wide receivers, they have to catch the ball. They can't drop the ball. Defensive line coming into this too, we got to contain. We got to contain because we found out that with rushing quarterbacks, you guys, you can't give up. You can't give up big yardage to a rushing quarterback, and it drives everybody nuts. And honestly, we did a very good job with shutting down running backs. So what we need to do though is we need to work on self-containment of the quarterback, and we need to have a more balanced offense coming into the game, and I think we'll be very successful.
I agree, and I firmly believe that we'll be able to do that. I just watching Georgia State, and just looking at some of the passes that they gave up. They gave up a 73-yard pass, 63-yard pass, a 40-yard pass. We can take shots against this team. I saw multiple times where a back coming out of the backfield was wide open on, say, a wheel route. So it's definitely something that we can take advantage of. And again, yes, they'll make adjustments too. They will. But at the same time, we need to take advantage of those things too.
Yeah, and it's weird saying, Georgia State, their secondary is kind of, weaker in a way, I guess you would say, but because anytime that I saw Georgia State playing, either in a bowl game or whatever, or trying to get into a bowl, their defense was always like really top notch. They're actually really good, and they were always, they were a very physical team, and they still are that physical team. They are a team that can find their way, and they always tried to find their way within the season. So what UConn needs to do is they kind of need to, I honestly think what UConn needs to do is just come in, set the tempo of the game, set the tempo of the defense, and just, and control it. You got to control it, even if it's at Georgia State, at Georgia State Stadium. We got to control. We got to just control it, kind of like what we did with FIU last year, and honestly just make them look silly. And I just can't wait. I mean, it's of course another under the lights game, and it's going to be very exciting. I feel it's going to be a very I guess UConn way. It's going to be a very heavy offense, and then and UConn way it's going to be a very heavy defense. So we actually might be able to capitalize easily.
I agree. I like our chances in this game, and I thought it was almost laughable. Vegas odds for opening week for this game that they favored Georgia State by 4.5 points. I scratched my head when I saw that, just because we're more physical than they are. We have a better football team, in my opinion. I don't think it's a debate even. I really think that we can make a statement in this game, like you just said.
Yeah, and I mean for Rhode Island, the FCS program coming in, and they could score 35. I mean, I hate to say it, but if we can't score major points against this team, then I'm going to question our team. But if Rhode Island come in and kind of beat them up a bit, I actually think that we're going to be very successful in this game, and we have to play smart though. We can't look past this game. We can't look past it at all, because we have FIU next. The next two games are very winnable. We got to go into Duke being 2-1. If we're not 2-1 going into Duke, then I don't think that's successful at all. We got to set the standard. We got to set the standard in the right way, and I think that this game is the start of our season, where we're going to set it. Say, hey, you can't mess with us.
I absolutely agree. I firmly believe that, and predicting this game, I expect us to win by double digits. I really do. I think, like I said already, we're the better football team. We're more physical. I think our offensive line can absolutely dominate this football game, and I think Joe is going to bounce back and have a good game passing the football. I think we're going to make some good adjustments in the passing game, and I think we're going to do a really good job rushing as well. And as you and I have said many times, we love our defense, and I'll take our defense against almost any team in college football.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing too is, like, I hope the coaching staff hears this, is like wide receiver wise, wide receiver group wise, if you have to switch people out, go for it. The NFL is doing it and it's working. If somebody just isn't doing their thing, or there's somebody in the wide receiver group that is stronger in a skill set, play them. Play them for that one play, a couple plays, and play to our strengths. Even if we have a quarterback that, can just come in for a few plays and just open up the game, or we could just, we got to do something special to kind of like mix this thing up. Like, if we don't see something working, just don't go with it. Like, try to switch things up so then we can have an exciting game. And I think we could do that, because last year, if you look at it, right, Zion Turner and Cale Millen, it was a good mix-up. And I still think that, Roberson and Fanano, is that how you say his last name, right, Fanano?
Yes.
Okay. If we could switch both those guys up, too, that could really mess up teams in the future. And that could mean that could just spell trouble for other teams. So I could definitely see, like, Nick Charlton mixing things up, even for this game too coming up.
I think that's a good point. I think, like you said, we got to play to our strengths. We got to play to what's going to work best. And like you said, sometimes switching things up can do that. I don't know if that necessarily means we need to be like running gimmicky plays and such like we've done in the past. I think against a team like Georgia State, we can assert our will and we don't need to use gadget plays. But I do agree with you. I mean, switching up personnel can really affect things in a huge way for us.
Yeah, because if you look at it too, Joe is coming from the FCS program, and sometimes those FCS schools, if you look at like the playoffs and stuff, they run plays like that are to their strengths, right? But when you come to the FBS, you have to sometimes expand that. So the thing is that when you see Joe get to a point where he's just either not, I wouldn't say getting tired, but mentally drained. It's always good to switch it up, kind of get him out of there, kind of say, "Hey, Joe, it's okay. Get somebody else in there just to run the plays for a little bit," because you don't want a quarterback either that is mentally drained. Last game, NC State, I saw him. He was starting to get mentally drained. I think if we switched it up a bit too, it would have been a tad different. And that's the type of stuff, like, it's not on Joe either. Joe, it's his first year playing against, FBS programs every single game. It's not like, FCS, you only have, like, what, two or three games against FBS and the rest are FCS. So it's definitely different styles. It's kind of like baseball too, right? You're not bringing up let's say FCS was AAA and FBS is MLB, the big leagues. When you bring somebody up from AAA, you don't expect them to play 160 games, right? Because they only play let's say half of it. So it's going to get mentally draining, and that's the type of thing is it's nothing hard on Joe, but I think what we need to do is when everybody feels mentally drained, just take them out for a little bit, let them rest up, and then bring them back in.
Agree. And the other thing to mention with that too is his first game was against NC State, who has a good defense. It's a good football team that's going to compete for an ACC championship, and that's a tough ask for somebody in their first football game at this level. And like I said, moving forward, I think that Joe and the rest of the Huskies will adjust, and I think I like I've said, we're still in good shape. I still firmly believe that we're going to win 8-9 games, and we're going to be just fine.
Yes, I believe that too. But the next two games, we got to be 2-1.
Absolutely,
we just got to be. If we're not, then we're not. We're not going to hit the goal. If
right.
We're 2-1, it's going to be a lot easier because then, even if you lose to Duke, that's 2-2. I feel a lot better coming through Duke 2-2 than let's say 2-3, and that's the type of thing. Oh, actually, no,
1-3.
Yeah, 1-3, and I feel a lot better coming in as 2-2 because if we want to set our minimum to 7-5, now it's like okay, even if we lose to Tennessee, that's just one loss. Now the rest of the games after that is kind of it's winning. I mean, we can win every single game after that. It just depends on how the Huskies take it and how everybody plays it out. And for us, for bystanders, it's easy saying okay, we're going to go 8-4 this year. But for those guys, playing on the field, playing every single play, what they need to understand is if you want to be 8-4. You got to play every single down, and you got to play to your strengths. You got to get those first downs. You can't just go 3 and out. You have to just keep going, even if you're tired. Just keep pushing, and that's just how that's just how a successful program works. And I know we're there. I know we're very close to that point. But the thing is, to these guys, If you're up 7-0, you gotta just keep scoring, just keep scoring, just keep scoring. Because if you do that, you're going to get into the opponent's head. And that's the thing, is you want to get into the opponent's head, because if you don't, if you don't get into their head and you give them that, sense of hope, it's just going to be very hard to win the game. So I'm just hoping from here on out we just play smart, do your thing, push them around. You guys are very good. You guys are so good, and I'm just really hoping that these guys understand how special this year can be, because these guys are a special group.
They absolutely are, and all the goals that we have are still right in front of us. We can still do everything that we want to do as a football program this season, and I firmly believe that we're going to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean the goals are there. It's still a fresh season. It's not like we're already 5 games into this, 4 games into this. We're only 1 game in. So oh yeah, this could be a season where this is a great year to establish. This is how UConn's going to be. And the thing is that this year is going to set the standards. This year is going to set the standards for next year on how big the crowd's going to be at the rent. And the thing is that this year too is going to set the standards on what kind of caliber recruits are we going to get. We can get really good caliber recruits, but we just got to strive through the year. We got to set that goal, and we just have to just be UConn. I mean, we got to be strong. Look at the basketball team. They when they get down in the year, they always come back strong. And I still think that the football team can do the same thing. And we're a strong football team, and we're actually one of the best football teams in the Northeast.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely agree with that. And I guess to wrap things up, the game this week against Georgia State is at 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN+. The Georgia State Panthers play at Center Park Stadium, which is the Atlanta Braves' old baseball stadium. It's going to be in the mid to high 80s, so it's going to be hot. So our guys will get hydrated and everything. Hopefully we don't see much cramping in this game, but it's going to be hot. But still, like you and I have said many times already, this is not only a winnable game, but a game we need to win.
Yes, and I still believe that we're going to go in, do our thing, and when we do, I'm going to text you saying we did it.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Well, to wrap things up, buddy, it's always fun having you on here talking UConn football, and we appreciate everybody who tunes in weekly and listens to our show. It's much appreciated. Husky Nation, we're so thankful to be able to bring these to you, and please continue to comment and send us feedback or questions or whatever you would like to hear on this show. We just appreciate being able to do it, and it's a blessing. So thank you guys so much. And Justin, let the listeners know where they can follow you.
You can follow me on X at Hawkeye282.
Absolutely. Everybody give him a follow, and then you, of course, follow me personally at Coach_BWill, and then the podcast X account at TNT College Foot 1. Please like, subscribe. You ever listen to the podcast? Give the podcast a rating on Spotify. It's greatly appreciated. Gets the podcast out to more listeners. And again, thank you guys for listening. Everybody have a good night. God bless, and go Huskies.